All right. So we're up to contact report 34. And first off, if you're still reading or listening or hanging out with me, I do appreciate it. And I'm sure the player and as well appreciate it. Just trying to get these contact reports out so other people are even aware of them. I talked to so many people that have never heard of Billy Meyer, have never heard of the contact reports of the player, and they have, however, heard of the seven sisters, which is in all our mythology, and the Egyptians and the Aztecs and the Mayans and everybody else. They used to use the seven sisters, the star cluster, which is the Pleiades, to decide when to plant their crops and to, harvest and all that other stuff. But they have never heard of Billy Meyer. They've never heard of Semyazi. They've never heard of these contacts. So I'm trying to bring them out so more and more people are at least aware so they can make their own conclusions and they can do what they feel they need. Anyway, this is Contact Report 34. Thanks again for hanging with me. The translators are DeepL Translator and Stefan Zut. Zut? I don't know. Anyway, Zutt. The corrections and improvements are made by Joseph Darmanin and Catherine Mossman. These guys put in an awful lot of work just to get this information out. And the contact person is Semyazi. Contact report 34, Sunday, 14 September 1975 at 13:43 hours. That's 1:43 in the afternoon. In case you don't know military time or whatever. Okay, Billy. During our discussion last Saturday, several questions came up. They are very important to us, so I asked you to contact me. Semyazi, for my part, I am very happy to keep in touch with you very closely, but at the moment, it is more important for us to finish the reports of your great journey with us. That was Contact Report 31, his great journey into another universe. This is, for the time being, the most urgent work, because another important thing is urgent, which has to be done. Therefore, it would be very dear to me if, for the time being, you would only try to complete the reports before you turn to questions again. Please spare me these until our work with the reports is finished, so that everything does not drag on and too many interim reports in the travel report create disorder. Billy, whatever you say, it really will be better because with the possible disorder, it can actually be right. Semyazi, you are always very understanding, as usual. But now, ask your questions anyway. If I am already here now, I can also answer your questions. Billy, thanks. You know the questions are very important for us because we need to be clear about certain things. The first thing is this. Mr. Jacob from our group has stated that the morning of Saturday the 13th September, which was last Saturday, he received a somewhat strange letter. In this letter, which we do not know whether it is from a woman or a man, it is said that the writer of the letter is engaged in spiritualistic work, and in this way has also dealt with Gloria Lee. Mr. Jacob has recently sent his reproduction book of Gloria Lee, to which this letter refers. The person claims in this letter that he had a seance with Gloria Lee about a year ago, and that she had said that she was sorry that she had written her book because the information about the Jupiter beings was not correct. The book was a free invention of hers. That is, only the work of her own thinking. What do you think of it? Semyazi, these processes are unknown to me. On the other hand, however, these details, as you have just mentioned them, correspond to a certain knowledge of the real events surrounding Gloria Lee. I myself explained to you on several occasions that her work was self-inspired, and indeed in the belief that she had been inspired by a Jupiter being. So this is an unconscious self-deception. Little note here, Semyazi's mentioned many times, there are no Jupiter beings. Jupiter is not habitable. You can't live there. Um, this was possible because Gloria Lee had been very misled by her environment and lived in an extremely religious and sectarian mystical world. Mysticism of this kind is not good for finding the truth, at least not in the sense in which it is used by Earth humans in connection with their unreal religions. Gloria Lee, however, could not know this, for she was never taught the truth. She was only able to recognize this when she left this world. Through her experiences and many books, she gathered a certain knowledge and made great combinations. Through these, she was able to construe many coming events, which she also wrote down in her work. Many things are very aptly named in it and are also of importance, but they do not represent any transmissions from any Jupiter beings or other life forms. They are solely the work of her own thoughts, which, however, she was able to direct along very good and even admirable lines. Thus, her work represents something valuable for searching human beings in the beginning of the search for truth, which becomes a guide in various aspects. The person who wrote the letter you mentioned to Mr. Jacob must obviously have this knowledge. Where she got this knowledge, however, is unknown to me. But it may well be that the person was able to get in touch with her during her lifetime and learn these things from her. However, this would presuppose that this person really knew her personally and that she is powerful with certain telepathic powers. However, as I have explained to you before, such Earth humans who are capable of telepathy are very few in number, and they very rarely, if ever, come forward with their ability. Billy, I remember what you said, but could you locate this person for us, or at least check if the details are correct? Semyazi, don't you have any details from her? Billy, no, if I remember correctly, the letter was posted in Manadorf, but without a return address. One name was mentioned, though, as Mr. Jacobs said, Ackerman, I think, or Rickenbach. Those aren't very close, but Semyazi. So the person does not want to be recognized then. Billy, that is obviously the case, but just wait. It all gets better because this, ... Semyazi, if that is so, there is nothing I can do for you. We must never violate the personal sphere of a life form and thereby act against its own will. So if it does not want to reveal itself, then we must not change this of our own accord. Billy, very unfortunate, because we would have been very interested in that. But can you at least help us so far as to find out whether her statements are true? And there's the letter here that Mr. Jacob got from somebody. Dear Mr. Jacob, some time ago you took the liberty of sending a friend of mine an advertising letter concerning a work by a certain Gloria Lee. She handed it over to me for my examination because I have been occupied with Gloria Lee's work for a long time. As one of the few real spiritualists, I have tried for many years to get in touch with the deceased GL because I wanted to know whether her teachings correspond to the truth. In the mid-60s, I became interested, and a little more than 3 months ago, GL appeared to me in a meeting and gave an account of her doings. She literally stated that she was very sorry to have written this work under the claim that it had been handed down to her and dictated by a Jupiter man. The truth would be that the whole writing was a self-inspired work of her own personality, and that she had never had any contact with other beings except those of this world. She said she was very sorry to have brought these falsehoods into the world. She explicitly stated that a book written about her later also came about in the same manner. The writer of the book about her was also only a self-inspiration because since her death she had found herself ready to appear spiritually with me for the first time. Therefore, okay, I guess and the guy that's writing this letter to to them is a seance, a medium, or claims to be a medium. Anyway, therefore, please understand that we cannot buy her GL book for ourselves because we do not want to have to deal with unreal matters. And this work concerning the false claims of the Jupiter man is unreal. If GL had stated the truth in her work, namely that everything is her own thoughts, then things would look different. Please understand this. I myself am very sorry that you have allowed yourself to be duped by the fabrication. Please make an effort to deal with realities and not with recognizable swindle and deceit. You will certainly get much further with it. The truth does not lie in the countless mystical things you seem to have fallen for. You will find the truth much closer than you think. Why do you not try to find out more about certain things, certain aspects of ufology? Because there you can really find truths. Ufology is the name given to the field of activity surrounding the things called flying discs, which are simply called UFOs for short. UFOs are flying machines from foreign worlds, and their occupants bring us many things worth knowing. But be careful here too, because these UFOs are also used for hoaxes. I once had contact with a star person myself for several months and therefore know about the fraud in this area. For example, a certain Adamski is a really big fraud along with various others. My star friend also told me at the time that the existing religion is fundamentally false and that the fraudsters interpret the coming of the alleged star people in a religious manner, which makes their fraud very easy to recognize. There are said to be very few real contact people. At that time, my star friend Seth told me that towards the end of the 70s, a Swiss man would also appear and start talking about UFO contacts. But he was one of the few whose statements really correspond to the truth, talking about Billy. He is supposed to become something like a prophet and know a lot of crazy things. In a few years' time, therefore, look out for this person who must come, for you will certainly be able to learn a great deal through him. He must surely come in the next 2 or 3 years, but there are also associations that deal with these things. So maybe if you visit one of these associations, it would be good for them and they could learn a lot. I may have had contact with a star person, but I cannot go up to people and tell them that. They would surely call me crazy, and I cannot take that on myself. So I keep quiet even when I know some things of great importance. My star friend also told me that I do not have to do it if I do not want to. And since I cannot do it, he is also not angry with me for it. I am sorry that with the GL info, Gloria Lee, you are still following wrong things and have not yet found the correct way. But I wish for you that you can soon find the truth, and I also believe that the man who has to come soon in the next few years can help you. All the best for you. Your hope for her, A. Rickenbach. Okay, Semyazi. Sure, this possibility is open to us if we ... Billy. Well, Semyazi, then I would like to raise some other problems in this context. Do you know anyone by the name of Seth? Whether it is a man or a woman, I unfortunately do not know. Semyazi, a very strange name, but no, it is unknown to me. Why do you ask? Billy, that is just as strange, Semyazi, as the thing with Gloria Lee. The same person claims in the same letter to Mr. Jacob that he was connected to an extraterrestrial life form about 10 years ago. Whether this was in purely telepathic form or in material form, I unfortunately do not know. Anyway, this person, if his or her statements are correct, must have experienced certain things via this life form, which obviously refer to us. At least Mr. Jacob said no. At least Mr. Jacob said so, because in the letter there is talk of you and me, so to speak, and that in 1975 I should appear here in Switzerland as a contact person. So this is what he was told about this extraterrestrial life form about 10 years ago. What do you say to this now? Semyazi, that is very interesting. These processes are also unknown to me, but I want to make an immediate effort and, if possible, have the data investigated. Wait here. I'll be right back. Semyazi walks away and disappears into her ship, which is a bit out of the way. A full 27 minutes pass before she comes back. Semyazi, Quetzal processed the data, and the array analyzers brought large areas in the surroundings under scrutiny. He has indeed found such a person as you have described. He is a man at the age of 41 with the name Alios Rickenbach. Professionally, for health reasons, he pursues free work, which does not correspond to his abilities. In former times, he was professionally engaged with graphics and thereby adopted a peculiar manner which he carries over to all things of his life. He also became very involved in the spiritual sciences and thus discovered the traces of the truth, which he only found in his early days. He is actually also active in primary telepathy and, in fact, very realistically. In this, he can be regarded as a great exception, and no wise does he fall within the usual framework of false telepaths. So, in other words, this guy was real. The analyzers recorded that he must have actually spoken personally to Gloria Lee or to someone she knew. It is also clear that she had often been in contact with a lot of human beings all over the world before her death. But this was not a year ago, as you said, but at completely different times. Billy, that is interesting. Where does this man live now? Semyazi, you cannot lead me astray with it. Billy, too bad. I thought you would fall for that. Semyazi, I told you we must not disclose the secret of the personality of a life form unless they wish to disclose the secret themselves. Billy, I had to try. Semyazi, sure, but you forget that I have learned a lot from you in the meantime, and pay close attention when you suddenly go completely illogical over your logic to get me to act illogically. You gave me a very good lesson when you took the group photos. Billy, all right, girl, I just had to try. But what about this life form Seth? Semyazi, here your time of 10 years is not correct either, and the name is not correct either. You pronounced it with a P. It is spoken with an F, so it irritated me too, and it seemed strange to me. It is now 14 years since this man who wrote this letter to Mr. Jacob was connected in a primary telepathic and personal manner with a life form called Seph, S-E-P-H. It was a life form from Alpha Centauri who at that time expeditioned the Earth for 11 months. In this context, Seph and the man met unexpectedly and made friends, as you call it. In the course of the 11 months, Seph enlightened the man about different things and facts and also explained to him the coming of you and me, because Seph was well informed about this time viewing. But we do not know each other and have never seen or spoken to one another. Seph also learned many things through the man and came to the conviction that the Earth humans had to be told various facts. Thus, he instructed the man to make known certain facts concerning extraterrestrial life, etc., to his fellow humans. And since Seph knew many events of the future, he also knew about your and my existence and explained it to him with the wish to spread this knowledge. But the man was afraid of this step and explained to Steph that he was not up to the task. Disappointed, Seth withdrew and left the earth again, and so the contact with the man came to an end. Billy, now I understand the course of things, and actually there is nothing at all mysterious about it anymore. You just have to know the facts. But is there really not the possibility that we can get in touch with the man? Semyazi, sure, the possibility exists, but the probability is very small. The man is permeated with fear and does not know the courage to be recognized, does not find the courage to be recognized. Billy, then you could somehow influence him so that he at least contacts us again. Semyazi, I am not allowed to do that because that would mean a forced intervention on his own freedom of decision making. Billy, then not. But how is it possible that you were able to find out all these things in such a short time? Semyazi, this is only possible through our analyzers, which I am not allowed to describe to you officially. Billy, all right, let us leave it at that. I have other questions in store, such as a question about a certain Ashtar Sharin. Do you know anything about him and his followers? Semyazi, I know the name very well. Billy, then talk. What is it all about? Semyazi, I do not want to talk about that. Billy, for what reason? We have some writings from a group in Berlin who are dealing with this Ashtar. What about you and not wanting to talk? Semyazi, I can explain the facts to you, but only for you. Officially, I am only allowed to make a few statements. Billy, then at least give these. Semyazi, I already said that we know the name very well. But we also know of the writings you mentioned and more of various other things. Despite all our efforts, which we have been doing for years, we were not able to connect with these life forms. Excuse me. We could neither find them in the places mentioned nor ever locate them. We searched countless systems of normal time and countless dimensions for them, but nowhere was there a clue from them. Everything is very mysterious, and interestingly enough, the traces from all systems of this and other times and from all dimensions lead back again and again to the Earth, especially to Germany. There the traces bundle together and concentrate in a very specific place and on a very specific entity. This is a center of a very powerful secret organization which you certainly do not know, and which calls itself the Thule or Aras Society. Thule or Aras Society. In years of work, we have not been able to clarify why all this is so and why we continue to research in this relationship. However, it is absolutely clear that all impulses undoubtedly emanate from this center. The initiators of these impulses possess great knowledge and many powers. They are also in possession of a few primary telepathic powers and many kinds of knowledge about extraterrestrial technologies, events, and about extraterrestrial intelligences, etc. We have established with absolute certainty that they transmit this knowledge through primary telepathy via impulsives, and thus influence many Earth humans who are sensitive to it. But we have also established with absolute certainty that the originators of these impulses, a goal prevails with the aim, preservation, and elevation of the white race on this Earth from the descendants of the Aras race. Okay, these people are worried about the white race, and that sounds like about it. And they're in Germany. I wonder if Hitler's got anything to do with these people. Anyway, up to the present time, we have not yet... Let me read that one real quick. But we have also established with absolute certainty that in the originators of these impulses, a goal prevails with the aim, preservation and elevation of the white race on this earth from the descendants of the Aras race. So maybe Hitler was an ET. I don't know. Anyway, just rambling. Up to the present time, we have not yet been able to clarify what the meaning of the whole should be and which actual powers are hidden in the originator. Everything is very well shielded through powers that are very difficult to penetrate. At any rate, one thing is certain. The primary telepathically radiated impulses are captured by various groups of humans and recorded in writing. These are sometimes very good transmissions and explanations that come astonishingly close to the truth or even stated in fact. But the reason for this was so far inscrutable and unclear. However, we have certain values about it, which I am not allowed to name officially, because they do not yet give an overall picture. However, it is clear that everything is concentrated around the Thule Aras Bund, but where it is actually controlled from is still unclear. Traces of this lead into a foreign galaxy, and it seems that behind the Ashtar Sharan group, there is even more than what we currently know, and that is also quite evil. Surprisingly, the writings mentioned contain an enormous amount of knowledge about valuable and good things and about facts that are quite unknown on the earth. Mixed in with these truths, however, are also very strange, unreal, and untrue, as well as quite negative and evil lies, and things that seem like an evil foreign body in the block of good. Thus, for example, gross falsehoods are interspersed, such as the naming of false contact persons who appear or have appeared on the scene in a fraudulent form. These are also immediately noticeable as evil foreign bodies and do not make any sense in their naming. It could not be clarified so far by us why these falsehoods are interspersed and asserted as truth, and what is the actual and quite obviously very malicious purpose of the whole. On the whole, it is certain that the primary telepathic transmissions are very valuable and sometimes even truthful in relation to things that appear unusual to the earthly man, but to which the evil falsehoods maneuvered in do not rhyme in any way. The whole thing simply makes no sense, for the logic of the very many truths is interestingly overplayed again by an unusually great illogicalness and falsehood. It is undoubted that the primary telepathic impulses of truth seekers were and are partly truthful, recorded in written form, because the persons doing this are or were very truthful. But it is incomprehensible that the real truth is in short again destroyed and made questionable by untruth as well as by lies and falsehood. Billy, it is possible that perhaps some extraterrestrial humans have their hands in the game? You spoke of the Thule Aras Society and of another galaxy, or of the Aras allies. Aras was an extraterrestrial after all. Semyazi, I am not allowed to give any official information about that yet. I got a feeling these guys influenced Hitler and some of the Nazis. Or all the Nazis, I don't know. Billy, aha, you already answered the question. Well, let us not do that then. Can you at least tell me more if you know everything exactly? Semyazi, then nothing prevents us any more from an enlightenment. Billy, okay. I have got now another question. Although we had last time already talked about it, however, some questions have arisen therefore from our discussion, namely from the Bermuda Triangle. After the discussion, it seems to me that you have once again explained only half the facts and concealed the most important part. I have learned that over there not only ships disappear, but also aeroplanes. Semyazi, you are really tireless, and you are really not satisfied until knowing the last details. Billy, those are very important for all of us. Semyazi, not only you seem to be very inquisitive. I will thus explain some things a bit more elaborately to you. In the past, I had once explained to you that there are 3 different locations on the Earth where fully natural dimension gates arise periodically. Let's do that one more time. In the past, I had once explained to you that there are 3 different locations on the Earth where fully natural dimension gates arise periodically. I wondered if Skinwalker Ranch is one of them. Anyway, these gates signify a nature-based danger, cosmically caused and originating from time flows. This natural danger is the originator of many happenings which affect the normal time of Earth, but just at these places where they appear. But on that, I will provide you with an explanation later on. First, I want to clarify some other facts. The events concerning the Bermuda Triangle are known worldwide, which is also to their benefit analyzed by certain dark figures. Those are seafaring men of Earth, which is also exploited by certain dark elements for their benefit, from simple piracy up to mass murder. They viciously board small cargo and passenger ships, seize the freight and the valuables, and then murder the crew and passengers. This is a kind of event that happens over there from time to time. Another form of occurrence in the Bermuda Triangle stems from a process natural to Earth, about which I had already spoken with you during the last contact. This area is naturally endangered due to the dangerous rising up of seabed gases, which cause many ships navigating in this location to suffer shipwreck over there and often submerge with all their crew and passengers into the sea, never to be found again. I had already explained that to you. The reason of these events is also that at this location the entire seabed is in constant motion and relentlessly lifting and lowering itself. As a result, huge underwater mountains and plateaus are often within a few hours pressed upwards and changing the surface and subsurface of the sea. Very often these changes are detected much too late by the skippers and their crews, and thus they and their ships collide at full speed with these upward pressed masses. This had already been the case in early times, while a continent had still been located there above sea level. It had been a large continent inhabited by a highly advanced race. By a tremendous disaster for which the residents had not been totally innocent, this continent sunk into the sea and was destroyed. Last but not least, the dangerous movements of the Earth and a cosmic event also played a role in this occurrence. The dimension gate also played a very important role. The events inside the Bermuda Triangle are likewise not mysterious, as is the case with the other two locations. Everything is explainable, and the events are really not associated with extraterrestrial intelligences who are allegedly over there occupying themselves with kidnapping and satanic machinations. Certainly, there exist two small stations deep in the sea in the Bermuda Triangle, which are also inhabited for 3 years by extraterrestrial intelligences from our Federation. Let's do that. Certainly, there exist two small stations deep in the sea in the Bermuda Triangle, which are also inhabited for 3 years by extraterrestrial intelligences from our Federation. In other words, there's two bases from the good guys down there. However, those are actually very distant descendants of the former inhabitants of the continent. But they are of absolutely peaceful nature and do not endanger any earthly life forms. Their spaceflight capable flying apparatuses are also able to navigate in water and can dive to great depths. There we go, UFOs diving in and out of the ocean. Okay? That is necessary because their stations are located deep in the sea. Very often, they can also be observed in these areas while they surface from the water and vanish into the atmosphere. However, they have factually nothing to do with the events of the Bermuda Triangle, which is unfortunately claimed regarding them. These claims are actually only based on religious machinations of certain ufology groups, which, following their dishonest manner of working and based on religions, must have two kinds of powers, good and evil, in their teachings or irrational teachings, in order to appear as trustworthy from the perspective of their followers and believers. But now I want to explain the dimension gate to you. As already said, it is a cosmic phenomenon. So let me get this straight. There are a couple of bases, or there were 3 years before Billy was talking to her, there were 2 alien bases near the Bermuda Triangle with friends of the Pleiadian. And they do fly their ships underwater and then come out of the water and go straight up into the sky, which has been documented on occasion. So, yeah, okay. But she says they are benevolent. They don't mess with nobody, at least until we shoot at them. Anyway, as already said, it is a cosmic phenomenon. Such a dimension gate represents a natural cosmic phenomenon, a barrier between your normal time and a dimension unknown to you. In the given case, this other dimension has a parallel world to Earth, which is, however, subject to greater fluctuations in landscape at some points. The dimension barrier, or the dimension gate, is caused by a cosmic elimination, transformation, radiation, which wavers and occurs periodically. Its point of origin are various giant suns in a galaxy unknown to you within a universe of other dimensions, which are sending out their radiations and are meeting in the other space-time structure in a 7.2 light years distance beyond the Earth. I've got to do it again. In its point of origin are various giant suns in a galaxy unknown to you within a universe of other dimensions, which are sending out their radiations and are meeting in the other space-time structure in 7.2 light years distance beyond the Earth. Over there, they begin to flow into one another and to bundle up. The Earth is the exact endpoint in the space-time structure of the Dern universe. What? The Earth is the exact endpoint in the space-time structure of the Dern universe, where this radiation is hitting highly concentratedly and producing the effect of a dimension barrier. I got to do that one more time. The Earth is the exact endpoint in the space-time structure of the Dern universe. Dern is our universe, where this radiation is hitting highly concentratedly and producing the effect of a dimension barrier. As the Earth moves, like all structures in the universe, this radiation, divided into a 3-arm, only hits the planet at 3 locations. When the Earth is moving exactly in the focus of the wandering radiation, causing the 2 dimensions to be able to touch each other via the radiation. Wow. The radiation itself produces the effect of an elimination of the normal time in a manner of evoking a transformation. That means that the structure of the earthly normal time is at the radiation flashpoints transformed into the timeless, through which the normal time is eliminated. This transformation layer is still located far outside of the actual center, which is already located in the other dimension. It is a similar process as the one known to you with cyclones. In the actual center of the storm, there is calm, while the vortex contains the actual storm. The outer rings and whirls are the transition layer from stormless to the storm. It is similar with the dimension gate. The outer layers represent the transformation layer from the earthly normal time to the other dimension. The vortex's radiation contains the actual transition in it, while the center constitutes already the other dimension, a different universe, respectively, a different dimension within a different time layer. Look, if you want to depict it, you can do it so, as I am drawing it here in the sand. Semyazi uses a piece of wood for creating a drawing on the floor. When later on recreating this drawing on paper, you will be able to easily recognize the facts from it, and they will also be understandable to all others. I am therefore recommending that you transfer this drawing to paper. Here you are seeing the depiction of a storm. At the outside there is the transition layer or the transition zone. And there's a picture here in it's on www.futureofmankind.co.uk/Billy_Meyer/contact_report_034. There is a picture of this storm center and the storm belt and the transition zone and transition layer that Semyazi drew in the sand, but Billy drew it on paper. Outside of this layer, the normal weather conditions are still prevailing, while conditions in the light layer itself are being changed. There is first calm and very sultry heat. Deep quietness is also related to it because the voices of nature remain silent as they feel the nearing of the storm. Only over here the actual belt of the storm and storm zone is located. Within this belt, nature's elements and all power of the storm are raging, while over here in the center, calm and quiet prevail. You see in my drawing that the principle of the storm follows and acts according to a precise harmony with the cosmic construction. This is the same event that emerges during the formation of a galaxy. Okay. The laws in macrocosm and microcosm are exactly the same and differ only in their order of magnitude. When you now start with the same drawing and imagine to see the dimension barrier in it, you are again getting the same principle. Relatively seen, the process will remain exactly the same, with the only difference of their forces equaling fundamentally different types. Concerning the dimension gate, the forces are purely cosmic energies, radiations of a very special kind. The effect of the vortex or the spiral does, however, the effect of the vortex or the spiral does anyhow remain the same, even if the appearance is different. The transition belt, the storm belt, and the center are here also. The transition belt, the storm belt, and the center are here also present, just in a different form than for a galaxy or for a storm of nature's elements on a planet or a star, respectively, on a sun. And there's another picture here, the storm center, transition zone, transition layer, storm belt. Anyway, the transition zone or the transition layer is to be compared with a transition time between two world eras. The old and traditional normal time is still available, but it is already allowing a view into the other time level, into the other dimension and other world. So when a flying object enters this zone with life forms sitting in it, then they are still in the normal time, but are already looking into the other time layer, into the other world. Because during their flight, they're looking forwards. They see a world totally foreign to them and a foreign landscape, as long as they had never been there before. The powers of the vortex life forms, as long as they are not familiar with these happenings and are not possessing the required devices and apparatuses, lose control over their flying apparatuses and are driven that way into the actual passage whirl into the actual dimension gate. Over there, they are then already solely seeing the other world in the other dimension, while their normal time is already behind them. Then they are driven into the center of the spiral whirl and are therefore in the other time layer, thus in another world, respectively, in a dimension totally foreign to them. Should they lack the required apparatuses and other devices, they become prisoners of the foreign dimension for all times, and a return to their normal time will not be there anymore for them. In and of itself, this happens rather frequently in the Bermuda Triangle, and earthly aeroplanes are repeatedly disappearing over there, unable to ever return again. Many of these events in particular are related to the use of earthly aeroplanes for hunting the beam ships of the life forms that are living there in underwater stations. So we go over there with airplanes looking for the UFOs and get sucked into another dimension. The aeroplanes are unexpectedly getting into the radiation of the dimension barrier that suddenly gets active and are carried off course into the other time layer, from where no return is possible for them. As I said already, these happenings, however, are evaluated in a religious manner and dressed up in totally false facts by very unreal and religiously confused practitioners of ufology, parentheses, Earth humans. It still remains to explain that not only flying machines are getting into these transformational spirals, but also ships and individual life forms, because the radiation field and the power of the elimination transformation of the whirls sometimes reaches to the surface of the sea. Billy, the whole context is thus effectively not mysterious. But you had in the past mentioned that humans are also kidnapped by aliens in the Bermuda Triangle. Semyazi, sure, but it is as rare as it is on all the rest of the earth. So we got all kinds of problems over there. First off, there's pirates, and then there's the earth coming up and the ships crashing into it. And then there's aliens that are over there observing, and then there's the dimension gate where airplanes and ships are getting sucked into to never be seen again. And now there's other aliens that are abducting people over there. Oh, that sounds like a good place to stay away from. For those abductions, mainly the Giza intelligences are predominant, together with time travelers and other elements of the universe. However, these incidents are truly very rare and count for less than 0.02% of all abduction cases on the Earth. So she's also admitting to abduction cases, but by bad guys. Billy, I could really not imagine this being a major organized thing. I am now still further interested in a matter related to the so-called appearances of saints. I mean those phenomena that are in a religious fashion dressed up in a holiness, like, for example, the alleged appearance of a so-called saint, after which the dear humans at the location of appearance are then creating places of pilgrimage out of it. A totally ... Semyazi, you are really tireless. I have already explained various things to you in this regard. Ask It also taught you a great deal about these events, so you are oriented about it and know the truth. You know very well that these phenomena are only personally generated visions or machinations of those power groups and those Earth humans who want to cast their spell over the Earth humans through the religious forms of appearance, and in others are caused by Earth humans through their exuberant religious imagination. This means, on the one hand, that the evil-minded extraterrestrial Giza intelligences who want to bring the Earth into their power cause such phenomena by projections or play such a role themselves, and on the other hand, that Earth humans afflicted by the religious delusion send out their horrendous fantasy by their consciousness-based powers and cause these phenomena by projection or visually semi-materially. So Earth-based humans, using their consciousness-based powers. So yeah, we got consciousness-based powers too. We just don't have a instruction manual on how to use them. Okay, you have experienced it yourself several times and also produced such projections yourself several times. So you are in possession of personal proof that my information corresponds to the truth. Also in the past, you witnessed such events when Askit brought you together with your friend in the past. You have experienced and recognized that the appearance of Lourdes was a projection, as well as the fantasy figure of Satan, which you projected into your field of vision as a child by your own powers. And you also know very well that, as another example, the appearance of Fatima was nothing else but the evil play of the Giza intelligences, who let one of their ships appear in radiant light, and then one of their female life forms appeared as the Mother of God, although they made the mistake that the woman remained in her spacesuit, and this was registered by critical observers. You know these events very well, and it is completely illogical to ask again. At that time, you were thoroughly and extensively enlightened by Askit, and it is inexplicable to me that you asked me again. Billy, if you had let me finish, then perhaps the light of knowledge would have risen for you, fair maiden. I wanted to ask specifically about the apparition of Fatima, but you simply cut off my word and did not let me finish. Now that you have explained it to me again, it dawned on me that Askit actually explained this incident to me, and that I could also follow the events around Fatima. I had simply forgotten it. Remember that I do not have a mammoth memory, and that I am an Aquarius whose memory is extremely overloaded and therefore leaves a lot to be desired. I do have an intuitive memory, but sometimes it does not work perfectly either. Semyazi, I am very sorry that I rebuked you. My statements were unfounded. I really should have taken your memory into account. It shall not happen to me again in the future. Billy, do you have a better memory? Semyazi, it is probably much superior to yours, but my power in this regard is not unlimited either. For this reason, I am not able to transmit our conversations, etc., from my memory to you, but I am dependent on the apparatuses which make the knowledge word for word recognizable again from my subconsciousness and transmit it to you in thought form. No material form of life has an unlimited power of memory, just like no computer has a unlimited size RAM or hard drive. This is only attained in purely spiritual forms when the spirit can get rid of the material body, no longer needs it, and is closer to the creative being than to life. Billy, then I am excused, or Semyazi, there is no need for that. It was my mistake not to consider these facts. All your knowledge and all of your nature tempt me again and again to put you on exactly the same level as we ourselves live on. Billy, that is possible, but unfortunately I am still a rather small worm and accordingly underdeveloped in every respect. Semyazi, you speak a very hard word about yourself, and it is not as true as you say. Physically, you are probably far behind us in terms of development, but on the other hand, you are very far superior to us in various spiritual and consciousness-based things and in spiritual knowledge, as we now know. You are also very far removed from your time itself and the earthly forms of life into the future. So your words only partially correspond to reality, and they contain a certain recognizable self-abasement. But you must not express such a humiliation, for it is much worse than any too great modesty. And once again, I would like to make a remark concerning your mystery. We will continue to try to get to the bottom of it and unravel it sooner or later. Billy, aha. Now the floral festival and the sermons about my modesty begin again. I promised that I would try to find the right form, so you do not have to talk about it anymore. Unfortunately, it does not work overnight, and I have to get used to the fact that I am supposed to be a little bigger than I always imagined. I am really not a Superman who can just jump over his own shadow, and I do not want to go into your last remark. Semyazi, with that you speak the truth. Billy, then we can let the topic go. That is fine with me, because now I have something about Gloria Lee again. You said earlier that we should write a guided tour for this work and add it to the book. I suppose you mean a so-called introduction? Semyazi, sure. Billy, that is what I thought. Now, is it possible that you might write us this introduction or preface, or do we have to do it ourselves? Semyazi, that is not my concern. You know the facts very well, and so it is actually up to you to make a useful guide. She's not going to take the time. Billy, I do not know the book. I probably borrowed it for reading, but I could not deal with it yet. Semyazi, I said that you know the facts. That is important in the first place. Furthermore, your high abilities are sufficient to judge the work faithfully by a short overview. If you therefore only take the trouble and look through it, then you will grasp the essential things at a glance. Billy, you imagine that very easily. Semyazi, that is not so, but you demean your abilities again. Billy, damn it, now stop this floristry at last. She's always throwing flowers at him, complimenting him. Semyazi, I only speak the truth, and you do not need to get excited because excitement is not appropriate here. Billy, come on, you have another one on your head, do you not? Well, if you think so, I just wonder where I should steal God's time again to do justice to this extra work. I must really be able to do magic soon if I am to do everything. Semyazi, you will make it. I know that very well. You know that too because you really know your abilities, even if you constantly question them. It strikes me, however, that you suddenly speak of God and of the time that you are to steal from him. I do not understand that. What does this speech mean? Billy, oh, it is just a common saying among us. If, for example, someone does not work at anything and lazes around, then one speaks of stealing time from the dear God. And if someone no longer knows, as I do now, where he or she should still take time from to be able to do certain things, then they speak of the fact that they no longer know where they should steal God's time from. He's putting God as a small g, by the way. Semyazi, ha 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 ha. I find that a funny phrase. Billy, then at least you have something to smile about. Semyazi, but now it is enough. Ha 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 ha, but that is really funny. I will learn this phrase if you will allow me. Billy, after all, it is not my doing, and it is a human common good, so to speak. You are also a human being, and so you are also belong to this bunch. Semyazi, today you really have a special saying again. Billy, here and there, you just have to get some air. Besides, I can have a fantastic conversation with you. Furthermore, you are simply very attractive, and I have often wondered whether I should bite off a piece of you. But to be honest, I do not dare to do that, so I have to switch to other things. Uh-oh. Semyazi, you are really funny. What do you think if your wife could hear your words? Is she no longer jealous, as you call her? You said something like that once, and I also noticed it myself. Billy, she really does not hear me, and right now she is sleeping and taking her Sunday afternoon nap. But on the other hand, because of you, I really have my dear misery with her. She is really jealous of you, but it seems to me that she has calmed down a bit in the last few months. Semyazi, if that is really the case, then it is very good because only she alone can fix these very evil and false emotions. So you left again today without her knowledge? Billy, sure. Now I am already beginning to see how quickly that will fade away. It is best like this. But now I have another question. Recently, i.e., yesterday, I was confronted with something that I would like to clear up. It is a medium who is concerning himself with spiritualistic matters. Spiritistic. Okay, with spiritistic matters. It would be very convenient for me if you could find out what this medium is all about. Is that possible for you? Semyazi, sure, I could do that, but you yourself are as well versed in these things as I am. Thus, you can find out for yourself. Already, Svath and Askit, Svath was Billy's original teacher, and I'm kind of thinking that Svath was Semyazi's grandfather, but I haven't got there yet. Already, Svath and Askit taught you these matters and initiated you into the necessary facts. So you know the possibilities of finding the truth, and therefore you do not need my help. Billy, but I will hardly have the possibility to move in the circle of this medium. Semyazi, so you know a trusted person from this group? Teach them on a confidential basis and offer them the opportunity to clarify the necessary facts themselves. Billy, I can do that. That is good advice. But the question is whether I can tell the person I trust the formula for finding the truth, because this was so strictly forbidden to me by Svath, as well as by Askit. Svath contacted Billy when he was 5 years old, talked to him for like 10 years, 10 or 11 years. Then Askit took over after a while, and she talked to him for about 10 years. And then Semyazi, these contact reports are about 10 years, 10 or 11 years. Anyway, Semyazi, the prohibition only applies to forms of life that are detrimental to the truth. But you spoke of a person of trust who therefore does not fall within this framework. You are able to recognize and evaluate the truth in people. If you therefore speak of a person of trust, then in your opinion she must at least necessarily suspect the forms of truth and be in doubt about the correctness of the religions through her insights. So it is not possible that this would be different, for your forces in this regard no longer permit unreal forms. Billy, then I may tell her the formula under the seal of absolute secrecy? Semyazi, sure, that is how I explained it to you. Billy, I just wanted to be sure, but what about the personal inspection? Semyazi, you know that this is always very good, but on the other hand, it does not always bring out the truth through circumstances you know well. But do it anyway. But first and foremost, rely on the formula because it is creationally based and of absolute infallibility. Billy, I know, but then I have another question. In the same connection with the medium, there is a fact concerning Arahat Atharsata. It was explained to me that the medium was questioned by its circle about the existence or truth of Arahat Atharsata, whereupon the other side allegedly spoke through the medium about the actual existence of Arahat Atharsata, if I understood that correctly. But the answers of the medium are always very unclear, and they do not really answer the questions. Everything is always expressed so mutably that nothing concrete becomes recognizable and thousands of possibilities can apply. What do you say to that? Semyazi, neither the medium nor the otherworldly beings, if such should really be in the game, which is not only to doubt but impossible, which is also according to your own knowledge with absolute certainty like that, could give any information about Arahat Atharsata to any human being. This level has already entered the stage of the first being and is of purely spiritual form. Not even I am able to connect with this level. This is reserved solely for our High Council, which is already half spiritual. That gets me. How do you do half spiritual and half material? So you got half a body? Anyway, maybe she'll explain later. It would therefore be absolutely impossible for an Earth human to be able to connect with Arahat Atharsata, or even to find out any facts about its existence. Not even an inkling of its existence could an Earth human being bring forth. But the facts also lie in consideration of the alleged otherworldly forms of life, if they are forms of that which is still bound to material bodies. Therefore, if any things are said about Arahat Atharsata from this world or from the supposed hereafter, whereby the latter is fictitious without the slightest doubt, then such statements and assertions or utterances, etc., simply put, only correspond to untruth and thus to lies. You are informed about the forms of the different beings, so you also know the secret of the declaration of manifestation, which must be carried out within a set pattern by every being that identifies itself with a material form of life. This secret is unknown to the uninitiated, and it is a good thing because it gives insiders certain absolute clues when lies, cheating, and deception are committed. Let me do those paragraphs real quick. You are informed about the forms of the different beings, so you also know the secret of the declaration of manifestation, which must be carried out within a set pattern by every being that identifies itself with a material form of life. This secret is unknown to the uninitiated, and it is a good thing because it gives insiders certain absolute clues when lies, cheating, and deception are committed. Billy, all this is known to me. Semyazi, sure, so act logically and clear up where necessary. You yourself know the limits of keeping a secret and are therefore able to decide for yourself. Therefore, do not approach me with questions that you can answer for yourself. You are able to answer your questions yourself logically and correctly according to the laws. Consequently, you are also able to carry out the action logically and thus logically according to the laws. Be clear, however, that you will meet with unreasonable resistance everywhere, for various elements that reject the truth make an extraordinary effort to accuse you of deceit and lies, to which even the most infamous means are just good enough for them. I have told you several times that various groups are working to disrupt our work, and your work in particular. These are, without exceptions, associations, individuals, and groups that have fallen into untruth, partly by religion and partly influenced by the dark powers of those addicted to seeking power. Billy, I know you have said that several times. Semyazi, you also know very well that every human is able to influence other human beings at unlimited distances in such a manner that they do exactly what they are commanded to do. One more time. Semyazi, you also know very well that every human is able to influence other human beings at unlimited distances in such a manner that they do exactly what they are commanded to do. You yourself have become mighty in these powers through the teachings of Svath and Askit. Billy, of course, but I have not practiced and applied them for many years. But I do not see why you tell me these things, because I know the facts very well myself. Semyazi, sure, you even know them very well, and my speech is related to the world domination addicts mentioned earlier. And I am talking about those of extraterrestrial origin who want to bring this world under their control, the Giza intelligences. They use not only mystically inclined and misguided Earth humans, but also other groups, mostly those that for some unclear and rather confused reason show anarchistic tendencies, such as the Red Army in Japan, the German Bader Meinhof group, the Red Army fraction, and the American Symbionese Liberation Army. The latter group, the American, is to be inspired by the aforementioned malignant intelligences to commit an extraordinary crime. If they succeed, it would lead to a worldwide catastrophe, but this should be prevented by a countermeasure. Billy, what are you going to do? Semyazi, nothing, because this task is up to you. The time has now come for you when you are to steer such events in a certain direction for the benefit of humankind. This means that you are to influence influential persons to take certain steps. Billy, you demand a great deal from me, and besides, I have not done such things for years. I do not know if I can still do it. Semyazi, it will, because you have learned something, then it is always present to you. Billy, well then I will try it, even if it does not suit me, because I do not want to influence other people and let them dance according to my will. Semyazi, there can be no question of that, and you should never do that either. You are to direct only certain events and influence them for the better, but only where it becomes an absolute necessity. In this case, the point is that you make sure that some certain people are led on a certain track. Otherwise, you should not influence certain events in the future. So you should not steer the events, but only influence them in such a form that very specific steps are taken, whereby very malignant degenerations can occur. He's talking about Patty. Let's see. Patty, what's her name? They were talking about a nuke from the American Symbionese Liberation Army. The latter group, the American, is to be inspired by the aforementioned malignant intelligences to commit an extraordinary crime. I forget what her name is. Patty something or other. They were doing something with a nuke, if I'm not correct. Anyway, so they want Billy to influence, I guess, the authorities to try to stop this crime. Billy, if this is so, then I am reassured. So if I understand correctly, I am just supposed to give the police a hand. Semyazi, sure, that is the point. Billy, so you are not going to send this conversation to me later, and I do not have to mention it somehow? Semyazi, you are wrong, because you are supposed to write everything down later. Billy, that is not possible. That is just crazy. Who believes me? They will call me mad and insane. Nobody will believe that I can do such things. Semyazi, even today, I will send you this report and you will write it down as usual. So you recorded our conversation before the events occurred. How long do you think it will take you to influence? I think you can have it all done by next Tuesday, the 18th of September. Billy, the time will be enough, but now tell me what I am supposed to do, or who am I supposed to influence, and why do you not do that? Why do you not do that? Semyazi, it is an earth human matter, and we have no authority to do anything about it. Your job is to influence different people in San Francisco, in America, and give them knowledge of the SLA hideout where the gang members William and Emily Harris, Wendy Yoshimura, and Patty Hearst are located. That's the Patty I was thinking of. So let me do that paragraph again. Your job is to influence different people in San Francisco, in America, and give them knowledge of the SLA hideout where the gang members William and Emily Harris, Wendy Yoshimura, and Patty Hearst are located. This gang must be held in secure police custody for at least some time to prevent a worldwide disaster. The most important person that you have to influence is the person of the leading man who is leading the search for these criminals. His name is Mr. Bates, Charles Bates, and he is an official of the American FBI under his own name. Here, this is a city map of San Francisco, and here is the municipality called Mission District. Only Mexican Americans live here with small exceptions, and here in this house, the gang of criminals has settled down and is hiding. These are the dates that you are supposed to broadcast. And there's an article here about Patty Hearst and a gang, but it's in German. I can't read it. So anyway, Billy, I will strive and also attempt to paralyze the resistance of the anarchists, if that is acceptable. Semyazi, sure, bloodshed is not necessary. Billy, fine, then I will see that the robber's den is smoked out on Thursday, 18th of September, 1975. Semyazi, that is a good thing. Then try to make sure that by the end of the week, at the latest, everything is so clear again for you that I can send you the remaining reports of your great journey with us. Billy, you know that I have a lot of people this week who will take me very seriously, and so I hardly get to write. Semyazi, sure, I must be a little bit oriented about your time. But you will be able to receive and write a little bit despite your other tasks. Billy, you are very sure. Semyazi, I have monitored the possibility somewhat, but now it might be time for you to go home again. Do this while your wife is still asleep. It is probably better that way. Then I will pass on our conversation to you in the first part. Unfortunately, it is not enough to do more today. Your best friend is already busy with the thought of visiting you. Billy, you are obviously listening around in the whole area again. Semyazi, there are certain things we have to be aware of. But now, go. Your time is running out. So she basically told him through some kind of thought impulses or thought transmission to influence a member of the FBI, Charles Bates. He's official of the American FBI under his own name in San Francisco. Try to tell him where the gang members of the SLA, members William and Emily Harris, Wendy Yoshimura, and Patty Hearst are located. So it sounds to me like he is responsible for this, for telling them where it's at. This contact report was Sunday the 14th of September, 75. I'm kind of wondering when they found Patty Hearst and her buddies, what the date was on that. If any of you listening have a clue, do send me a comment in the comments. I'd be curious how far in advance they were talking about Patty Hearst and her gang. Something she doesn't say specifically, but I think it was something to do with they had a nuclear bomb. They were going to blow up some city or something, nuclear weapon. Details. I'd love to hear them if anybody knows about it, anybody that's still listening along. Anyway, that is it for this contact report, which is, this is contact report 34. We're all done with that, and we'll move on to 35 when we get a chance. This is pretty awesome talking about the Bermuda Triangle and going into alternate dimensions and pirates and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, I'm done here. We'll get back to you on number 35. See you later. Bye.